The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to the final episode of the Yaron Brook Show. Don't worry, just for 2021. For this year, final show. All right, today we're going to do a roundup, if you will, quick roundup, because there are too many stories to cover in depth. Of the top stories of 2021, I've got 14 of these. I think it's 14. Yep, 14 stories. What I think are the most important stories of the year. We'll count them down. No particular order, except that I'll leave what I think is the most important story of the year to last. So, we're not counting them down by importance. I didn't have the stomach to rank the 14. I don't think it would have meant at all. But we're doing that. What? I was voted Objectivist of the Year by ARC UK. How many people got a vote? How many people, was this a popular vote? Was this just Nikos and Mark Pellegrino? Do I get a prize? Is there a check? Should I expect a little sculpture, a check, something, an autograph copy of Nikos's? Oh, well, I've got an autograph copy of Nikos's book. I have no idea what that means. I have heard nothing about it. Nobody told me I got voted for anything. Don Watkins picked Amish. Yeah, that makes sense. Rucker picked the Super Chatters. Which Super Chatters? My Super Chatters or his Super Chatters? Jonathan. It's great to see Jonathan here. Thanks for the support. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for the support all year round. Thanks for visiting me in Puerto Rico in 2021. All right. So just a little bit, I might be a little slow today, a little low energy. We'll see how this plays out. I was hoping to be back, but, got a bit of a scratchy throat, weakness, and a headache, and I don't have COVID. But what I do have is what do you call it? I had the booster shot yesterday, and I've got the side effects from the booster shot. Not as bad as the second shot. Those I felt worse. Although I think I slept during the bad part of this. But I do feel a little just drained of energy. So but I'm boosted now. Whatever that means. No, I don't have a cold. I don't have COVID. Or maybe I have COVID. Who cares? But I certainly have a booster shot. So now I have 3 vaccines listed on my little card. So we will see if when the new vaccine passports come out, and require 3, I'll be all ready. So I can travel to, to Europe. Cancel my trip to January, but March, I will be in Europe in March and in May. So we will be doing a number of trips to Europe next year. All right, I am boosted for 2022. That's right. The booster doesn't sound risky. There's nothing risky about the booster. Come on, people. Tens of millions of people have had the booster. Nothing risky about the booster. A little bit of side effects. That's it. It's all good. Okay. So, big news of... so, remember, you can use Super Chat to support the show. This is the last opportunity to support the show in 2021. I don't expect we'll have anything close to this, but in last year, we raised $6,000 on New Year's Eve at... during the final show of the year. So I don't know if we can make 6,000, but there's Michael starting us off with $100. So maybe this is good. Wishing you, Dr. Brook, and everyone, Happy New Year 2022. Happy New Year, Michael. Will be incredible. 2022 will be incredible. I certainly hope so. I'm kind of 20 20 and 2021 were not my favorite years. 2020 has its special place in hell in my life, one of the worst years I've ever had. 2021 was better, but I want to get back to normal. I want to get to those fantastic years. In terms of the show, by the way, in terms of the Yaron Brook Show, 2020, best year ever. 2021, second best year. I mean, both years were phenomenal. 2021 was better financially. 2020 was better in terms of views and hours watched. I think primarily because of the summer there and Black Lives Matter. My videos did really, really well during that period. But the last 2 years have been fantastic in terms of the show and in terms of your support of the show and all of that. But in terms of just getting back to normal life, I'm looking forward to 2022 as being a better year. Michael says he's got a funny question. Well, today is the day to ask funny questions, so go for it. Will you ever get a tattoo? Now, this is an easy question because the answer is unequivocal, simple, straightforward, and 2 letters. No. I don't get it. I don't understand tattoos. Why would I want to bear the pain? For what? There's no aesthetic value. I think it's a disvalue. I don't like tattoos on other people. I don't like tattoos on me. You can't change your mind about that tattoo. You buy a painting, you don't like it, you sell it. You buy a poster, you don't like it, you burn it, you throw it in the trash, whatever. Can't get rid of a tattoo. I've known people who've tried laser treatments, other stuff. It is a major, major hassle, and I would not recommend it. It's too difficult, so I would not. Eddie, thanks for the support. Happy New Year, Dr. Brook. Waiting for you in Romania in 2022. Yes, very much hoping to make it to Romania in 2022. Either in March or in May, I will certainly, Romania is on the short list of places we're planning to go. Joe Tidbits writes, Brian Emmerich and Alex Epstein announced a thoughtful app yesterday. I saw that. I downloaded it already. Did you happen to participate in the app development? And Happy New Year. I did not. They did not ask me to participate, which is fine. they know what they're doing. I'm not sure I would have had much to contribute. I haven't played around with the app yet. Look it up. Thoughtful, the app. It's a new social platform, but completely different than anything else you've seen before. But that's just what I've read about it. But I'm looking forward to playing around with it and getting to know it and getting to see how I can use it and in what ways I can recommend it to you guys. But for now, I just recommend to you, go to the App Store, download Thoughtful, and play around. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you think I could benefit from it. So, okay. So we're off to a good start in the first 7 minutes of the show. But we're pretty ambitious on New Year's, so keep it coming and keep it coming with the questions. Questions can be on anything, light, deep, personal, aesthetic, anything you want. You can ask today. I'm not promising to answer everything, but you can ask everything. Gene, thank you. Thanks for the support. I appreciate it. And yeah, and even if you can't give a significant amount, Gene gives $1, that's great. If everybody who listened to the show gave $1, we'd be doing really, really well. So go for it. Robert asks, given everything, 2021 was surprisingly good. Among other things, the Okan appearance, Lex Malice interviews, Hazoni and Wolf debates, and so many regular shows. Great staff. Thanks for all you do. Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit personally about 2021. 2021 was an important year personally for me. 2020 was the year I said goodbye to California. Sold my house in 2020. If you remember New Year's Eve show last year, I did from California as I was there to sell the house. 2021 is my, Saturday will represent 4 years. Tomorrow actually will be 4 years that I have been in Puerto Rico. 2021 is the first year that I am, in a sense, fully committed, all in, not just for the short run, not just for a little while, but for the long run. I spent more money than I ever thought I would ever spend on anything to buy a gorgeous, magnificent condominium here in Puerto Rico. My wife is not leaving this place anytime soon. So we're here for the next 10 years. So this is the end which I committed to Puerto Rico at a personal level. So I'm super excited about that, and have enjoy my time here. I do hope that 2022 represent me starting to travel again, because I don't want to be here 365 days. But if I can be on the road for 100 and 150 days a year, and the rest of them in Puerto Rico, that would be just perfect. In addition, 2021 was a great year for the show. I mean, we had, I don't know how many live shows we did, but it was a record year in terms of revenues. It was a record year for Super Chat. This month, depending on how we do today, if we can do about $1,000 today, then this month will be the best month we've ever had on Super Chat, with the exception of this year, the best month this year, because last December, because we raised 6,000 in one day, that was kind of I think the record. But anyway, it would be phenomenal. So today, if we can raise a lot of money today, that'd be terrific, and we can send the year off in great shape. As Robert said, I did the Lex and Malice interview. The Lex Friedman, I think, interview was in 2020, but the Lex and Malice was this year. I did the big debate with Richard Wolff, which I thought, and Vosh, if you remember the debate with Vosh, that brought a lot of people to this show. Did the debate with Yoram Chazoni. Unfortunately, the sound is not great. And hopefully tomorrow, Lex will release my interview with Lex and Yoram Chazoni. That's a 3.5-hour interview. We had Okan. Okan was great. Some great appearances. I traveled for the first time, as Jennifer reminds me. Thank you, Jennifer. That's very generous. Jennifer organized a tour for me in Michigan, so I spoke at a number of universities in Michigan. It's been a long time since I'd spoken live at university campuses. I spoke in London. I spoke in Greece. I spoke in Vienna. I spoke in Lisbon. We spoke in Israel. So I managed, in spite of COVID, in spite of all the restrictions, in spite of the millions of tests that I had to take, the multiple tests, I managed to travel and managed to give talks. So it was a good overall. It was a good year. It was disappointing in the sense that COVID was disappointing, and we'll get to that. Because COVID obviously is a big story for 2021, in a sense that I thought the world would be open by now and there would be no restrictions, certainly by the fall, and it didn't turn out that way for a variety of reasons. Let's see, Scott. Scott says, Happy New Year. Why do you think more people tuned in during the riots of 2020? I think a number of things. A lot of people are locked down. People were home more. I think consumption generally of electronic media spiked in the summer of 2020. So it really was June, July, August were the highlights. I think second, more people watch this show when I am focused on criticizing the left. That's what they like. As you know, I lost subscribers, a lot of subscribers this year. We did not do well in terms of raising the number of subscribers this year, because I lost a lot of subscribers this year because of my coverage of the January 6th insurrection, because of my pro-abortion stand, because of my anti-conspiracy theories about the election, my anti-conspiracy theories about 9/11, and on it can get. So, what people like is when they attack the left. But I also think that last summer was unique in a sense that people were looking for stuff to do, and they were looking for voices to listen to. They were very upset. Things were crazy, things were nuts, COVID and everything else. And, if you remember, I did stuff on white fragility. I did stuff on the anti-racism. Those videos did phenomenally well. And people like the anti-left stuff. They don't even like the anti-left that I do in politics, which is interesting. The whole thing is interesting. But this is where the right is. The right doesn't care about politics anymore. Politics in the sense of not politics. Politics is the right doesn't care about economics anymore. So anytime I criticize the left about economics, or criticize Elizabeth Warren, or criticize anybody like that, nobody really cares. the whole focus, the whole orientation of the right has shifted to social issues. So if you cover social issues, you get huge following. If you discuss social issues, if you do lots and lots of shows of the woke, lots and lots of shows on, I don't know, transgender, lots and lots of shows and stuff like that, that's what people want to see. That's what people are interested in. Now, there are lots of shows that do that, so you can get that anywhere else. Me, I'm not going to do that. I'll cover those issues, but those are not going to be the main issues. The cultural fight, in my view, is not a particularly good fight. It's not a particularly interesting fight. It's not the most important of the fights. Free speech is. So I've talked a lot about free speech, and my first show ever was on a podcast was a free speech show. But with the exception of the issue of free speech, most of the cultural issues I don't think are as important as just the constant oppression of government over our lives. And that comes from a variety of issues, religious issues, again, the cultural issues, but the right doesn't want to hear about those. The right just wants to hear about the left, how evil the left is. And evil not on economic issues, because the right agrees with the left on economic issues. It's really evil from the perspective of all the cultural stuff that has to do. And there are plenty of people who do that. So you can consume all you want. You know, Barry Weiss is excellent on this. If you want, you can follow Barry Weiss's Substack and so on. All right. So let's start talking about these stories. Oh, Raphael has a quick question. I've been a free rider. I'm excited for my first question. So am I. That's great, Raphael. Thanks for being here. How do you develop an investment thesis? You need to integrate a lot of knowledge, and it's quite hard. By the way, I work in venture capital in Portugal. Happy New Year. Oh, great. I'll be in Portugal at the end of March. I'm attending a conference in just outside of Lisbon in, what's that beautiful mountain outside of Lisbon? Oh, God. Tip of my tongue as usual. Names just don't stick in my brain. It's early onset something, but I just can't get it. Sintra. I'm at a conference at a beautiful hotel in Sintra in March. I also expect, anyway, so that'll be at the last weekend in March. So anyway, Raphael, it's very difficult to develop an investment thesis. And I think that the only people who really should be developing investment theses are pros, are people who do this for a living. It's one of the things that, it's one of the reasons why I don't encourage amateurs to day trade and to get too involved in trading and developing investment strategies. This is something best left for the pros because it's a full-time job. It's not something you just do as a hobby. It's not something you just do to the side. You can invest in companies you know. As an aside, you can do a little bit of day trading and make some money for a while, but then you're almost guaranteed to lose it all. But to really have an investment thesis that you could trade, you have to devote a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of thinking to it. It's a little too general, I think, to ask me, how do you develop an investment thesis? I mean, because it really depends on the kind of investment you do. Like the investment thesis for a venture capital fund is going to be very different than an investment thesis for a hedge fund, which is going to be very different than an investment thesis for a private equity fund, which is going to be very different for an investment thesis for a diversified mutual fund. So it really, really depends. But what you want to think about is, given your knowledge, given what you know about the world, given your abilities, whether those abilities are in stats and in big data, or whether those abilities are in analyzing technology, or whether your abilities are in projecting the future, or whether your abilities are in identifying great managers, figuring out what you're good at, figuring out what you know, figuring out where you have an edge on others. Like, for example, just being in Portugal might be an edge on other people, because my guess is there's just not a lot of venture capital in Portugal. So you might just have an edge by locally getting a look at the best firms. And then the question is, how big can they get if they, from Portugal? They obviously European Union, but then US. Anyway, you have to take into account everything integrate it all, and figure out, okay, what is my area of expertise? Where can I add real value? And then start digging, then start applying that to different sets of investment opportunities or potentials out there. So to run through how actually to do this would be a whole seminar in and of itself, but it really depends on what your strengths happen to be. I mean, my investment thesis is built on research I did with my partner in the 1990s. It came out of academic research, and we've just been trading that for 20-something years. And it works. And it kept getting refined, and kept making it better, and kept diving deeper. But basically, that's it. Different people develop their investment theses in different points in their life, and based on their experience and their knowledge and their skill set, their competitive advantage. And that's the key. What is your competitive advantage? What can you identify that other people can't? Because if everybody knows what you know, and everybody can integrate what you can integrate, then you don't have an advantage. You have to have a comparative advantage. So I don't know if that, Rafael, that answers your question, but feel free to do a follow-up if you like. Colin, thank you for the support. Happy New Year, Ron, and everyone. I just increased my monthly subscription dollar amount. Thank you. Here's to 2020 being the year that your show goes 100x. I'll drink to that. I'll drink my Fiji water to that. Yeah, I mean, 2x, I'll take 2x. 100x would be pretty phenomenal, But 2x would be amazing. So on Saturday, we'll talk about my ambitions for the show for next year. And we'll talk about stuff like this. We're focusing more on the past today than on the future. All right, let's just get started. I think, so I was looking at the list I made of 14. I'd say from the perspective of the world, right, from the perspective of a non-US story, I would say the most important global story this year was the end of Hong Kong. Hong Kong died before our eyes this year. It did it slowly. The death clearly started in 2020. It was obvious that nothing would be done about it, so it continued slowly and systematically into this year. And this year, I think, was really the last year Hong Kong had any kind of semblance of freedom. Right? The Hong Kong police just this week, like yesterday, shut down the online pro-democracy news outlet Stand News. 7 people were arrested, 2 current and former editors and 4 former board members, including a popular singer. What was the response to this? Nothing. Nothing significant in Hong Kong, nothing significant in the West. No world leader made a big deal out of this. Biden is too busy, I guess, with the potential of Russia to invade Ukraine than he is with actually defending the bastion of freedom in the Far East. And you don't even have to, I'm not even talking about defending it. Say something. Talk about the value of. But we don't have a politician today, unfortunately. We just don't have a politician today who is capable of really standing by Hong Kong and expressing what needs to be expressed about the death of one of, maybe the 3-4 most exciting cities of the 20th century. Now it's China. It's no longer Hong Kong. Earlier this year, the Apple Daily newspaper closed, and authorities raided its offices and froze millions in assets, and of course arrested its founder who had been a symbol of Hong Kong, a kid who arrived in Hong Kong at the age of 14 with nothing, who had risen to become one of the richest men in the world, who had risen through the textile industry, ultimately became a media mogul, I guess they call them, a billionaire, a defender of freedom in Hong Kong, somebody who stood up to Chinese, spoke out against the Chinese, just folded. He folded because he was sent to jail. Did anybody say anything? No. There is a massive potential brain drain going out of Hong Kong because the United States offered them citizenship, visas. Of course not. The UK has offered some, not enough. Taiwan has offered some. It's just tragic. And then, of course, so to me, that is a number one kind of foreign story, probably the most important story. The last time Hong Kong will play any significant role in our lives. I don't expect to go visit there. I have been there many times, and it's just personally sad. I know people in Hong Kong, and it makes me, it really is tragic. I always used to say in my talks, if you've never been to Hong Kong, you have to make sure you go once before you die. Just horrifick. Of course, the other big global event, which in a way will have repercussions for many years moving forward, even more than Hong Kong, was China's growing authoritarianism and crackdown on the technology industry. I've done many shows on this. I'm not going to repeat myself, but basically this is a continuation of the trend since Xi came to power, a continuation of the demise and decline, I think, of China. This is the beginning of the end of the China as a significant threat. I mean, they'll still grow and they'll still make a lot of noise, but if they continue in this path, they're not going to be successful. Again, there's a massive potential for a huge brain drain out of China. People are looking to get their money out. People are looking to get their mind and soul and family out of China. This would be a great opportunity for the United States to step forward, to say anybody coming from China is welcome. Of course, we won't do that. There's no way in hell we would do that. Sad, tragic for them. Sad, tragic for us. Let's just hope that in the next few years, Taiwan doesn't become the top global story in my lineup as China has taken over Taiwan. No more freedom in Taiwan. Let's hope that is not the story of 2022 or 2025 or 2030. Let's hope Taiwan can remain an independent, free, free country, free economy, really a model in many respects for Asia. So those, I think, are the kind of the outside the United States stories. The one other foreign policy story, at the end of the day, the most important American foreign policy story that will have repercussions for, again, decades, years and decades into the future, is the pathetic, ridiculous, incompetent, evil withdrawal, the way it was done from Afghanistan. No question, we should have left Afghanistan. It was a war that we were not committed to winning. It was a war our generals had given up on almost from the beginning. It is a war politicians gave up on years and years ago. It is a war that had no end, and American blood was being spilt for no reason. No question, bringing the troops home was the right thing to do. But the way it was done made America look weak, pathetic, treasonous, traitorous, in a sense of turning its back on its friends. The way it was done, if you remember, I think it was 13 Marines were killed in a suicide bombing. Why? The way it was done handed the country basically on a silver platter to our worst enemies, to the people who have schemed and conspired against the United States and have killed Americans forever. The way it was done was about as bad as you could do. I blame Biden, but I blame, to a large extent, Trump, who signed a ridiculous, absurd, anti-American peace deal with the Taliban that set the stage for what happened with Biden. We should have left, but before we left, we should have drawn blood. And that blood should have been Taliban blood. That blood should have been a devastating blow to the Taliban and everything they represent and everything they stand for. Instead, we left on our hands and knees. We left groveling. We left in a pathetic manner. We will not be trusted by allies in the future. We will not be trusted by friends in the future. We will not have friends in the future. And since we left Afghanistan the way we did, we can expect the country to become a haven for terrorists. We can expect that in the decades to come, there will be more attacks in the United States that have originated either planning or training from Afghanistan. So the United States has proved to be even more pathetic than I thought they were, even more pathetic than I had written about in my essays about foreign policy in the 2000s. Who could have expected? Well, I did. I kind of expected this would be, in the end, the way we left Afghanistan. I knew we would lose. That. Adam says, Joko had a great video about the Biden. Should have said yes, and I published that video. I commented on that video. You can see a short video of me commenting on Joko doing that. So yes, I'd say those three are of the 14. Those three have to do with what is going on outside the United States, having to do with foreign policy, having to do with just global issues. End of Hong Kong. China cracked down on its own industries, on its own economy, on its own tech, which is going to make it poorer and create real difficulties. And of course, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which is a truly horrific event. Where should we go to now? All right, let's do a few economic issues of big stories of 2021 in terms of the economy, in terms of finance, in terms of technologies. Economics, tech, finance will be the theme here. Before we do that, Adam writes, Taiwan has a libertarian, unfortunately anarchist, Audrey Tang in the cabinet, digital portfolio. Her solution to social media conspiracism is humor over rumor, make fun of the conspiracism, do not mess with tech. Comment. Yeah, I mean, hands off. That's great. Taiwan generally had the best response to COVID. It has a vice president who is an epidemiologist, has this libertarian cabinet member who is pretty hands off in terms of how tech should be regulated, how big tech should be regulated. We need that kind of common sense, free market attitude here in the United States, it's sad we don't. It's sad that we have to look for Taiwan both for proper COVID policy and for proper tech and internet and markets policy. All right, just to keep you updated, we're at about $260 going for 1,000. So the goal today is 1,000, but 260 so far. So we started off great, but it's kind of tapered off a little bit. Now, one of my decisions about 2022 is I am going to try to ask less for money. But that means that you guys have to be more forthcoming and step forward without me asking. It's a two-way street. If you guys are engaged, if you guys ask questions, if you guys use the super chat to support the show, then I will ask for less money. It'll be easy for me to ask for less money during the show. Okay, Albert asks, I read Alice Shrugged after hearing you speak about Rand at Lex Podcast. Yes, that's what 2021 was all about. Had never heard of her before. Big fan of your show. Thank you. Thank you, Albert. I'm super excited that you did that. Is that a pound sterling or that's pound sterling? or euro. Sometimes I can't tell. It's so small over there. But anyway, I look forward maybe to seeing you when I travel in Europe next year. Maybe our paths will cross and we can meet. Frank writes, I posted on your Facebook page video about the new high-rise. I don't look at Facebook, so you post stuff on my Facebook page. It doesn't go anywhere. Facebook is a black hole from my perspective. I don't get it. It's way too complicated for me. It's way too complicated. So I don't do Facebook. A video about the new high and very thin skyscraper in New York City. They're half empty tenants. What do you think of these? I mean, I like the skyscrapers in New York City. I don't like them design-wise in particular, but the thin one it had a very small footprint because it tried to squeeze in between a lot of other buildings. So it's a challenge in New York today to build skyscrapers because you have to build them between other buildings that already exist. I admire people that are ambitious to try to build skyscrapers. Obviously, it was opened, I think, during COVID, so I'm not surprised that it's not full. But New York, I think, will come back, and you will see more people filling up these skyscrapers. So I'm a big fan of skyscrapers. The boxy ones are kind of boring, and I don't like them. The architecture is not inspiring. They could learn something from the Chinese and Hong Kong about architecture, but it's sad to see that American cities are not as ambitious in terms of architecture as the Chinese are, or were at least in the past. Okay, let's do some economic. First, this was the meme stocks. You remember meme stocks in January? It was a GameStop and AMC. They went up hundreds of percent. I did a whole show on that. It actually got a lot of, one of the more watched shows that I did was on meme stocks. I got a lot of hate on what I said about meme stocks. I got a lot of resentment, primarily I'd say from the kind of libertarians, from the more anarchistic elements that listened to my show, who thought this was going to crush the man. This was a statement against Wall Street. Well, what can we say a year later about meme stocks? One, Wall Street hasn't been crushed. A couple of hedge funds took a hit. So what? Who cares? Other hedge funds did fantastically well and actually made money off of the meme stocks. I don't know who the man is that they went after, but they didn't succeed in getting him. On the other hand, meme stocks have stayed super expensive and super volatile. Not quite as expensive when they reached in January, but they're still relatively up. Two reasons for that. One is the bubble is ongoing, and therefore they are still up because the bubble sustains them in an up position. And second is that these companies were very quick, particularly AMC. And GameStop picked up on this at some point. They were very quick to raise capital at these levels. So they managed to raise capital at very, very low valuations. They now have a lot of cheap capital on their books to make investments in the future. The extent to which AMC has a future, I don't know. It's questionable. Ultimately, things are moving more and more towards streaming. Yes, they made a lot of money after Spider-Man, but Spider-Man, and a few other successes this year. But are theaters going to make a big comeback post-COVID? Maybe. We will see. And how long will it last? We will see. As our televisions get bigger, as 85-inch televisions get cheaper, as projection televisions of over 100 inches get simpler to use and cheaper, one wonders if people are going to go out to the theater quite as much. But anyway, AMC is way up, and whether it can sustain those levels, I'm gonna. If I was investing in such stocks, I would probably short them ultimately. I would not bet. I certainly wouldn't be buying. Same is true of GameStop. GameStop is investing in an online platform and so on. They are much better, more experienced platforms for online gaming than what I think GameStop is capable of putting together. They will have a run, they will have a ride, but I wouldn't be buying their stock at these levels. They're way overpriced. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 years from now, both of these stocks were trading at 80, 90% below where they are today. So none of that was investment advice, just my uneducated, I don't know, or educated opinion about these things. I am not providing anybody out there with investment advice, but I would own them. I would own them. No way. All right, so that is our meme stocks. Another aspect of this, and Liam, thank you. I'll get to your question in a minute. Another aspect of this is, of course, the stock market generally is hitting all-time highs. This is fairly stunning and an expression of the fact that we are living in very, very strange times. We are, we'll talk about this in a minute, but we have every sign that we're already in significant inflationary times. There are signs that while the economy might still be adding jobs overall, there are real pressure points in the economy, there are real struggles out there. The supply chain bottlenecks are just one sign of the challenges, disruptions, malinvestment that has been happening in Main Street, if you will, in industry and in all over the United States, and I'd say all over the world. We've got a completely incompetent president who is constantly threatening to raise taxes and is generally just basically super incompetent. We've got increased regulations and business coming out of this White House, coming out of the regulatory agencies, and the stock market couldn't care less. They're going up and up and up and up with no stopping it. So I don't know. I don't like to call bubbles, but it certainly seems bubbly to me. I certainly would not be surprised if the stock market took a major hit in 2022. I don't invest based on that. That's nothing to do with my investment. I'm, in a sense, all in, but I wouldn't be surprised if this market is in a bubbly state in its all-time highs right now, and basically in trouble. It just doesn't make any sense to me with the amount of uncertainty, with the amount of risk, with the amount of political incompetence, with the amount of regulations and new taxes. What is the market celebrating exactly? And the amount of dislocations caused by COVID. What the market has celebrated to date was the constant inflow of money from the Fed and the federal government. But the Fed has already announced it's going to slow that down because of inflation. So it can't continue to do that given inflation. So we will see. We will see. We will see. Let's see. Owen, thanks you. Thanks for all the shows this year you're on. Thank you. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate it. That brings us up to $480. That is great. So we're getting close to halfway mark to the $1,000 goal. Liam, another $100. I would be far from anxious, unfocused individual if I hadn't discovered you and Rand. Oh, sorry, I misread that. I would be a far more anxious, unfocused individual if I hadn't discovered you and Rand. I don't know if you realize how many lives you've changed and saved, and how your show is the highlight of many people's day. Happy New Year. We're going to change the world together. Liam, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. Almost bring tears to my eyes. But yes, I truly appreciate it. It's, I do think that we're at the beginning of something big. It's slow. It's going to take a long time. But it's always been, this whole philosophy, this whole way of life, this whole way of thinking has always been progress one mind at a time. One mind at a time. And your mind, and you save one mind, and we go like this for a few years. We start gaining a real following and a real audience. And the thing you'll get from me is consistency. I'm not going to go after the latest fad, after the latest cool politician, after the latest authoritarian nutcase. A lot of people will drop out. A lot of people leave and lose interest. But I know that you guys, many of you guys, are going to stay with the program. It's going to have a profound impact on your life. I keep discouraging you for being overly political. Hopefully that'll save you from a lot of anxiety and allow you to focus on what's important in life. And we will march together towards a better world. Or we will march together towards a better life ourselves as the world around us crumbles. But one thing is for sure, my intention is to help make your life a better life. That's part of what we're doing. And it's not for altruistic reasons, purely selfish, because I like you guys and because I like my own life and I want to be surrounded, even if it just is on, even if it's just on electronically, I want to be surrounded by people who are living the good life, who are making the most of their life. So we are going to change the world one mind at a time. Well, Michael, let's do Michael first because he put $50 into this. I mean, Michael, I have to say, Michael here, who's just done $50, Michael probably is my #1 supporter on Super Chat. I'm pretty sure that's true. He asks a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. Sometimes he asks a bunch of $5 questions, but he sprinkles in a lot of $20 questions into there, and then once in a while a $50 question or even a $100 question. And I think consistently over the last year, Michael has been, on the Super Chat at least, Michael has been my most significant supporter and consistently there and consistently asking. So thank you, Michael. I really, really appreciate you in 2021, and that is great. Michael asks, don't evil people not organize well together? They get envious of each other's positions quickly and begin to backstab. Why are the Nazis thought of as inefficient and organized? Was Nazi Germany the most efficient collectivist society in history? No. I mean, Nazi Germany was not particularly efficient, was not particularly organized. It failed. I mean, it didn't last more than 12 years. It was crumbling from within. People tried to assassinate Hitler from within. People in Germany were starving. Bad strategic mistakes were made from a military perspective, from a war perspective. You're absolutely right. The collectivism, it enhances mindlessness. So you don't get innovation, ingenuity, new thoughts. You don't get the leader being challenged so that if he makes a mistake, nobody's going to say, hey, Hitler, maybe we shouldn't open a second front before we finish the first front. Maybe we shouldn't get bogged down in Russia in the winter. A lot of questions that would have been asked in a free society of the leadership were not being asked. And that leads to decay and destruction. And you could go on and on and on. And look, Soviet Union lasted for a lot longer. You have to say it was much more efficient, much more organized, but of course much poorer and desolate and unsuccessful, and in the end crumbled. So, no, there is no efficient collectivist society. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. North Korea is efficient at suppressing its people, at putting them down, at what's exactly efficient at. So it's efficient at keeping the people down. True, if that counts. All right, Adam. Adam has taken us a big leap towards our goal of $1,000. We could do $6,000 if you guys would like. I'm game for that, but let's make it to 1,000 first. Adam, thank you. Another one of my major supporters this year and last year, if I remember right, always coming in with some big contributions, significant contributions. He writes, finding objectivism can be frustrating, but such a bedrock of my life. I can't imagine a life without Ayn Rand and your contemporary application of her philosophy. Thank you. More sponsored show coming in 2022. I'm looking forward to it and excited. I think 2022 will be the best year for the Yaron Brook Show. I think I'll do 2020 and 2021. We're gonna organize the show more. We're gonna structure it a little bit more. I'm gonna ask less for money. I'm gonna ask more for monthly contributions. I'm gonna ask more for sponsorships. But we're gonna blow it out of the water next year, and Hopefully, it'll also be a year for debates, for talks at universities. By the way, just a general comment for you guys: if you know anybody, or at a university, at a business, at a trade association, anybody who hire people to come and speak, I'm available. Would love to come anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, I would travel anywhere in the world to speak. If you're running a student group, my fee is very minimal, very minimal. So don't worry about ability or inability to pay. Let's just get speaking engagements this year. I've done in the past, pre-COVID, I used to do about 100 debates, panels, talks a year. I'd like to get back to that level, or at least close to that. But that will really depend on you guys inviting me to come and speak. But if I'm invited to a student group, I will come. If I'm invited to a business or to a trade association, if you pay, I will come. But let's really do it, and let's make it happen. Again, if you know people, or if you yourself know, let's do it. Jeff writes, I agree, Liam. This last year with Yaron and his crew has instilled me with much more knowledge to act on my life this next year. It is truly appreciated, Yaron, at how convincing your reason can be when I let myself listen and learn. Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate it. And again, you've been a consistent supporter over this last year, and I really appreciate that. And look, more valuable than the money, really, this is true, is the words of appreciation, because the fact that you guys are learning, the fact that this is improving your life, the fact that this contributes to your life, that's the motivation. That really is the motivation. This is why I do it. Okay, Kevin asked, what was the most positive, encouraging thing that happened in the U.S. in 2021? Good question. Let me see, where do I have that? I don't have a lot of positives, but I'd say, okay, so let's go to a couple of positives, because I'm going to end on big negatives. So Ragnar, wow. Ragnar came in and blew our goals away. That's great. Ragnar, thank you. Again, another one of the whales who have supported me all year, or again, a couple of years, and always with big numbers, both a significant monthly contributor and a super chat contributor. So thank you, Ragnar of the Desert. I hope things are going well, and we will all change the world together. I hope that means that this year was a good year, and January bonuses are looking good. All right, I guess the goal is no longer $1,000. The goal now officially is $2,000. So it's $2,000 for the night. All right. What was the most positive, encouraging thing that happened in the U.S. in 2021? I would say two things. Two things. One, in technology, and one in actually, I don't know, politics, culture, maybe considered one of those. I'm not sure if you'd call it that, but here it is. So on the technology side, I think that, while 2020 was the year of the vaccines, and to some extent 2021 was as well, and 2021, in terms of how much the vaccines have helped prevent death, they were a little disappointing. We'll get to the vaccines in a minute. They were a little disappointing in terms of preventing you from getting COVID, but blew it out of the water in terms of preventing deaths and hospitalization. And now we've got these pills that Pfizer has put together that are very exciting. That was very important. While I think that a lot of the great innovations to come in the next few years are going to come from biology, I think the real space to look is gene therapy, CRISPR applications. I think that's super exciting. I wish I had somebody I could interview on that. I would love to get somebody on the show who can talk intelligently about CRISPR and about the potential of gene editing. It just truly is amazing. I don't remember anything super amazing happening on the kind of digital technology front. I mean, there's slow incremental improvement, but nothing huge. But the one area where I thought it was both inspiring and exciting and fun and interesting was, and positive, was in the area of space. Remember, this is the first time we got a number of civilians going up into space, and in a rocket. Whether it was Branson, whether it was what's his name, that ridiculous actor from Star Trek, whether it's Jeff Bezos himself, going up to space was exciting, and just the whole space program, the emphasis on space, what SpaceX has done in terms of satellites, in terms of internet, global ubiquitous internet. That is very exciting. On Lex Friedman's show, I think it was the day before yesterday, Elon Musk is sitting there and says, we're going to be on Mars optimistically in 5 years, a man on Mars, optimistically in 5 years, pessimistically in 10 years. That's astounding. That's astounding. Nobody a year ago would have thought that was possible. And yet now, it's something people are seriously talking about, and Elon Musk is, whether what he's saying is real or not, whether it's connected to reality or not, hard for me to tell. But it's ambitious, and I'm not going to bet against Elon Musk right now. So it's super exciting. So I think space is definitely the area in which what you're seeing some really positive and exciting within the U.S. And I would lump together with that, on the positive tech side, I would lump together with that just Elon Musk. I mean, I've always been skeptical of Elon Musk. I've always been skeptical about who he is and what he is. He seems a little weird. The fact that Tesla, Solar City, and SpaceX all rely on government so heavily was always suspicious in my mind, and still is to some extent. But you know what? He's just been amazing over the last year. Whether it was when he told the state of California to shove it when they asked him to lock down his plant because of COVID, I think that was last year. Whether it was his statement about regulators shaking their fists at the sky because somebody asked him, well, how could they regulate the internet if you just put satellites everywhere? That was the best tweet ever. Whether it was his fighting back on Elizabeth Warren, even though I thought Elizabeth Warren won the debate long term, just the fact that a businessman would stand up to a politician was so encouraging. So the whole thing, Elon Musk was inspiration this year. And if you've watched him over the last 2 weeks, he did an interview with, what is it called, the B something, the funny magazine from the right, or whether he just did a 3-hour interview with Lex Friedman, or whether all the other interviews. The guy's fascinating. I don't always agree with him. I don't always think he says the right things. I think he's too not intellectual enough when it comes to some of these issues. But man, he's got the right sense of life. He's got the right attitude. He's got the right, I don't give a shit about any of you guys. Yeah, Babylon B. I'm going to just do my thing and leave me alone. Get off my back. It's just fun to watch this guy, and it's inspiring to watch him. And yeah, I mean, we need more Elon Musks in the world. More businessmen with Elon Musk's charisma and balls and willingness to speak up. And yeah, they could use a lesson in philosophy, and they could use a lesson in how to defend capitalism. But I'll take what they're giving now because it's the one thing that's been absent. Any kind of sense of, this, get your hands off of me. Let me live my life. I know what I'm doing. Any kind of self-esteem. That's what's been missing from American businessmen when dealing with politicians. Self-esteem, self-confidence. I mean, compare him to the pathetic appearances of big tech in front of Congress. I'm not surprised Congress doesn't invite Musk in front of it, because he would make them look like fools, which they are. All right, Travis, thank you. That's very generous. I really appreciate it. All right, Dave has a $100 question. He writes, the businessmen I interact with don't strike me as guilt-ridden due to their altruistic moral code. Isn't it that they think they're supposed to feel guilty, or they are concerned if they don't give a lot of their money away in taxes, the peasants will rise up against them. See, I don't really think you know these businessmen. Now, again, you know, you might be in a particular group of businessmen in New York, among, you know, from I know you interact with a lot of very religious Jews. Yeah, I mean, they have a completely different attitude. But, you know, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of businessmen. And, of course, they feel guilty. I've told this story many times, but, you know, I attended once this business luncheon, Lifetime Achievement Award luncheon for businessmen in South Carolina, in Charleston, South Carolina. And each businessman, I think there were 3 or 4 of them, they got their bios read to them. You know, when they were introduced, they came up and got the prize, and the bios were like 10-minute bios because this is a Lifetime Achievement Award. And in the bios, the guy introducing them would spend about a minute and a half on their business achievements. And the rest of the bio is basically all the community service, the charity, the soup kitchens that they had funded. And each one got up and talked about their charitable bullshit. And then I was the luncheon speaker after this. And I got up there and I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You didn't win this award for your charity or your community service. Your lifetime achievement is not charity or community service. And you should have seen the shocked look on their faces. They knew what I was saying was right. I said, you received these awards. Your real achievement in life is the businesses you built, the values you created, the jobs, the products, the win-win relationships you built around you. And you know, I got a standing ovation at the end. So they know they're supposed to feel guilty, and to some extent they feel guilty. They also feel pride, but they suppress the pride because they're not supposed to have pride. Pride is a sin. So when I come and say you should feel pride, pride is good, then they feel emboldened by that. But I have to literally say it to them. They can't imagine it themselves because of the guilt. And you're right. Many of them think they need to feel guilty. It's not necessarily that they feel guilty. It's that they think they need to feel guilty. I think Bill Gates, for example, doesn't actually feel guilty. But I think he knows he's supposed to feel guilty. He knows that every philosopher he reads, every book he reads, every spiritual leader he encounters expects him to feel guilty. And therefore, he acts as if he feels guilty. I don't think he actually feels it. Some of them, most of them actually do feel it. And all of them believe they should feel guilty. Dave, another $100, and I haven't even reviewed your movie yet. I'll get to it, don't worry. Dave asked, is the law of identity why Karl Popper is wrong? Oh, God, a hard question. Don't give me these questions on New Year's Eve. My father's a physicist and always told me you can never prove anything true, only false. But because you drop a ball and it falls every time, there's no guarantee it will fall the next time. This strikes me as completely insane. Yes, it is completely insane. You're absolutely right. And, you know, in a sense, you know, okay, so I don't know enough about Karl Popper to be able to say, you know, what it is about his philosophy is wrong. I'm looking for an objectivist who is an expert on Karl Popper to bring on so we can critique Karl Popper properly, because he deserves a proper critique, not a half-assed critique from me. But I think Karl Popper has the same problem many others does, and that is the problem with induction, right? Adrian writes, Adrian Garcia is absolutely right. Hume's gift to humanity, skepticism. Yes, it's Hume kind of embraces a skepticism towards induction. And Popper turns it into a science, if you will. And yes, that's exactly the problem. Absolutely. Once you know a ball drops. And while you don't know exactly what gravity is, you observe it in all these different places. You see the causal relationship between gravity and all these other laws of physics. At some point, you can't say, well, it comes out of focus, focusing on my background instead of me. I have to fix that somehow in the camera. It'll reorient itself towards me in a second. David Deutsch is an expert on Popper. He's not an expert on objectivism, as far as I can tell, right? I don't know that he's even read Ayn Rand. And I think David Deutsch is probably too sympathetic to Popper, and I don't know how critical he is of Popper. I'd be curious how critical Deutsch is of Popper, because Popper needs to be criticized from an objectivist perspective. I don't think Deutsch can do that, because I don't think he's an objectivist. So what were we saying? So once you understand the causal relationship and you see the observations, you can say, yes, the ball will drop next time I drop it. On Earth, right? In space, something else will happen. But that's the whole point of gravity, is that once you understand what it is, or once you understand how it works, you understand that it doesn't exist to the same extent in different places, that it's related to the distance from the mass and all kinds of other things. We discover that, and once we understand all those things, we can make a generalization. But you see, Hume and then Kant have really what did they call it? Really immersed us into the skepticism, not trusting our senses, not trusting induction, not trusting our ability to generalize, not trusting reason. And that's very dangerous. One of Freeman said, David is fixed, calls mistakes, some have caused mistakes. That's great. I'm on my Kindle is David Deutsch's book. My plan is still to read it because it's been recommended to me so many times. Maybe I can meet him sometime when I'm in England if he'd be ever interested in meeting me. I'm not sure he would be. Let's see. Anthony, thank you. Congratulations on a great year. Thank you for the excellent shows. That's $50. Thank you, Anthony. We're at 1,784, actually 1,800 now with the other $20 from Daniel. So 1,800, we're $200 short of the $2,000 goal that we just set. 2,000 going on 6,000, I guess. That's the way it is. And I don't know how I'm going to get through my 14 big stories of the year at this rate. But let's do some $20 questions. So I did one encouraging. Let's do the other encouraging one for the year. I object. It says, thank you for the wisdom in 21. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. Let's see, what's the other positive? Oh, the other positive one, I also did a show on this. I have to say that I was encouraged this year by the performance of our criminal courts. I think on the big issues, with a lot of media coverage trials, the courts this year got it right. Now, I know there's going to be some controversy here, but I think they got it right on Chauvin murdering, what's his name, in Minneapolis. I think they got it right with Rittenhouse. I think they got it right with Amory outside of Atlanta. And I think they just got it right with Giselle Maxwell. So from a time where, O.J. Simpson, the O.J. Simpson trial, caused all of us to be super skeptical about the criminal justice system, super doubtful about its ability to be objective, super doubtful about the epistemology driving it, and the objectivity of the system itself, to the point where Leonard Peikoff made the case, I think a really good case, against the jury system and for the French legal system. That's how much we'd lost, the American criminal system lost credibility. I think this year, I think it's a positive story. I can't think of a major high-profile case that went, from what I understand, her name is Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell. Did I say something else? I'm sorry. I sometimes call it Giselle. Ghislaine or something like that, whatever it's pronounced. I'm glad she was found guilty because, I mean, she did horrible things to young girls, and this is great. So, I mean, that's good news. Our criminal justice system seems to be doing well, Somebody's asking about the Kim Porter trial. I didn't follow the Kim Porter trial, so I don't know. I mean, maybe you guys can educate me about that. Maybe I should follow it. I can't follow everything, but I didn't follow that one, so I'm not sure. Ghislaine, that's what I'm told. Her name is Ghislaine Maxwell. That was all good. And the other one was George Floyd. Sorry, I forgot the name. It's a little ridiculous to forget those names, but as you know, names don't stick and names are mispronounced. That's part of the shtick here. I don't know if Bill Clinton is guilty, but Bill Clinton is a creep. So would you be surprised if Clinton and Trump and all these guys, all these older guys who are, I mean, maybe they didn't sleep with teenagers or underage girls, but maybe they just slept with 18, 19, 20-year-olds and partied with a guy who was sleeping with little girls. Maybe, but they're all creeps. They're all weirdos. They all consider themselves, in a sense, above the law, above morality, above anything. And they all are miserable. All are miserable, all of them. It'd also be interesting to see how all the Jeffrey Epstein cases work out in the future. There's still a lot of court cases, mostly in civil cases. There's a court case against Dershowitz where he's countersued, Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew. We'll see how all this plays. We'll see if Maxwell cuts a deal with the prosecutors to get a light sentence and in exchange gives names. Somewhere there are videotapes. I don't know where they are. But somewhere, I mean, I think if the prosecutors had them, they would have used them. But somewhere there are videotapes. Somebody has them. All right, let's do some of the $20 questions here. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel and Daniel. Let's see, $20 questions. Jason, under LF capitalism, laissez-faire capitalism, I could see courts not enforcing contracts if they led to harm. One could not secure the broadcast rights to an actual Squid Games. Would having roads where people can drive drunk really be allowed? Probably not. Hard to tell. Driving drunk is kind of a borderline case. But yes, what you're on to is something really, really important. And this is what libertarians don't understand. In a proper laissez-faire country, you couldn't, for example, enforce a contract for slavery. I enslave myself to you and we sign a contract where I am your slave for life. That's not an enforceable contract. You're right about a contract for Squid Games would not be enforceable. Whether a road that didn't care about, by default, just didn't care about drunk driving would qualify, I'd have to think about that. But certainly here, it's a really, really important observation that objectivism doesn't argue that any contract between any two people for anything would qualify as a legit contract that the government would abide by. Brownie says Walter Block talks about that. Yeah, Walter Block believes that you can enslave yourself and you can have sex with children, according to Walter Block, because they gave consent. This is what horrifies me about libertarians, that they can get to such conclusions, like a contract for enslaving yourself, and not see that there's something very, very, very wrong with that, and maybe backtrack and try to figure out where their logical mistake is. That's called rationalism. When your conclusions are so bizarre, and you don't learn from that and think, okay, what am I doing wrong here? And you don't connect them to reality. But that's a lot of times what happens to libertarians. Creepy is right. Dave asks, is Jeffrey's restaurant open tomorrow for New Year's Eve? I would love to try it. If any other objectivists in the New York area, PM me on Facebook and maybe we can do a meetup. I mean, I would just go to their website and do it. I think Jeffrey's restaurant was just recommended by one of these best restaurants in New York in 2021 lists that I saw on maybe Grub something. I don't know. I was looking, and so it's a highly reviewed, highly rated restaurant, and just amazing. So yes, my guess is if they're open tomorrow night, they're sold out. But try, go to the website and give it a try. And if you go, send my regards to Jeffrey. My guess is right now he's serving food. He's making food and serving food. Jeffrey does everything at that restaurant. No, he also has a bunch of amazing people who help him out, but who work for him. But yes, I'm sure they're open tonight, and he is super busy. So Dave, go, do it, go for it. Let's see. Daniel asks, if we were to go back 100 years, we would probably see signs of the upcoming statism we see today. Are there any signs today of the objectivist free market future? It's very hard to tell. So you can look backwards and see signs much easier than you can living in a period and see it. And also, I mean, you could argue that the signs are the ongoing high rates of readership of Ayn Rand. You could say that the signs are somebody like Elon Musk is saying what he's saying, and a lot of people are receiving it positively, a lot of people negatively, but there's a significant number of people positively. You could go back and see, I don't know, the creation of the Ayn Rand University at ARI as a major step in the direction of producing the kind of intellectuals that 100 years from now will be identified as a major event leading to a free market future. You could think of a lot of these things, but we don't know what the future's to bring and how exactly it's going to play out. You could see the work that somebody like Alex Epstein is doing and say, wow, somebody is fighting for fossil fuel without objectivism. I mean, this is mind-boggling, right? Without objectivism, nobody would be standing up today for fossil fuels. Even the whole, I'd say, ecosystem that is built now around defending fossil fuels, anti-climate change, a lot of that is inspired and incentivized and intellectually provided for by Alex. Without Alex, would we have as many voices as there are today? And there are quite a few voices today that are working hard to do this. It might be that things like the University of Austin turn out to be important. It's hard to tell if it's going to be important or not. Maybe. Is Hillsdale important? Hillsdale's like a University of Austin that already exists. Although University of Austin is better in the sense that it has some nominal leftists. It has some rational leftists on the faculty, although Steven Pink has already left. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Hard to tell. Any one of these things could be real positive signs for something. I think one of the positives for this year, I think I've got on my list. I had it on the list. It disappeared. One of the positives for the year is the rise of Substacks as a major medium of media, communication, education. The fact that Substacks cannot be controlled by tech companies. You can't shut them down. The owner of the Substack owns the mailing list. He owns the product he's creating. They're just facilitating a platform from which he can distribute it, but he could switch to another platform and take all his followers with him, all the money with him. So Substack is really, really important, and I've learned more. And this is a huge, I think, positive. That is my 15th story of the year, definitely, is Substacks. And the great impact that they have had on our ability to learn from the future, from other people. And I've discovered thinkers I didn't know existed. and I wasn't familiar with because of Substack. So I think Substack is a trend towards freeing us from kind of the traditional mainstream media, whether of the right or of the left, towards a kind of independent media where we can pick and choose our reporters, pick and choose our news sources, not from the conspiratorial, nonsensical stupidity that exists out there, from Alex Jones to MSNBC, but from a variety of people who might position themselves primarily in the center politically, but who are interested in doing objective reporting. So I think that's exciting, and it's an exciting time to look forward. So at 1878, so we're we are $120. I think we just passed that. How much money is that? Web John, we haven't seen you in a long time. I have no idea how much money that is. It's not insignificant. My name is pronounced YBS. YBS. Okay. Did I get it right? YBS. Okay. This donation is, if I am a 3-part package deal. First, thank you for these shows, information, fun, and true lifeline to reason. Thank you. I appreciate that. Second, I'd love a review of the movie The Country. Okay, you're giving me an IMDb link. That's important. Let me just copy paste that into my files so I preserve that. I will do that on my list. There are 3 movies now, 3 or 4 movies I have to do. And third, I look forward to seeing you in DC for Ocon and Independence Day. I will absolutely be there. And I'm really hoping the world is open so all my European friends can come. I'm looking forward to you coming from Norway and people coming to the UK and Sweden and Portugal and Italy and Germany and and I'm missing out on a lot of countries, but and South America and Asia, and I'm hoping this DC conference will be the biggest conference we've ever had, because people just want out, finally get a chance to come to the U.S. So thank you, Webern. Okay, I think I got that close. And I, really, really appreciate the support. It's about $550, which is amazing, and takes us well over our $2,000 goal. So that's terrific. Jeff, thank you for the $200. Robert Nasir stole my $200 ask, and at least once before the end of the year, he would pronounce her name correctly. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, you're going to have to figure that out, because I have no idea what you're talking about. Cook, thank you for the awesome shows this year. Thank you, Cook. I really appreciate it. This is great. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you guys showing up and coming around. And Fabian, I'm sorry. Really appreciate this. I haven't seen you around here for a while, but this is great. And I will be doing the review of The Country, and I will see you in Washington, D.C., and hopefully, if everything works out according to plan next year, I will also see you in Oslo in October, first weekend in October 2022. So that'll be fun. All right. Where are we? Oh, $20 questions. God, I'm behind. What am I going to do here? Way behind. Got Linda. Okay. Let's do Daniel. Daniel says, we did that question. Okay. The other Daniel also from Norway. Hi, your shows have been great and are only getting better. What do you think the long term looks like for Australia? Will they continue the direction they headed during the pandemic? It's very hard to see them completely reversing. I don't think you're going to see lockdowns and shutdowns without an excuse. But I do think what this has shown to Australia's politicians, and generally globally to politicians, is that people are willing to cave. People are willing to fold. and that that people are not going to stand up for themselves, and that means that the danger of ever increasing government encroachment exists. They'll get their freedoms back. Not all of them, some of them, but now we know what emergency powers of the government are, and then it's up to politicians when they declare emergencies. So I think generally it bodes very ill for Australia. Robert asks, Thessi rhymes with hazy or crazy, and Nasir is pronounced Nasir. Nasir. Where's the Nasir? Okay. No, I don't expect anyone to remember. Not for just $20, but it had to be said. Just keep it light. Happy New Year. Nasir. Okay. I'm learning. All right. New goal, guys. The new goal now is $3,000. We're at 2,644. So we're going for $3,000. Linda asks, Yaron, thank you for all you do. Happy New Year to you and all my Objectivist friends out there. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for being here and supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Hunter. Have you thought about starting a Discord channel for the show? I follow some other podcasts, and it keeps the community engaged and connected. You could sell access as part of Patreon too. That's what they do. I need to figure out how to do that. I don't know how to do it. One more channel just is rough. I mean, I'm not young anymore, as hard as it is to believe. I'm 60 years old, and it's hard for me to keep track of these things. And I mean, people want me to do TikTok, and so if I can painlessly do Discord or at a low cost do Discord, I would certainly consider it. So I'm gonna ask Action Jackson, who was here earlier, who comes in and out. I don't know if he's here right now. I'm gonna ask him to do some research into the whole Discord phenomena and see how we can get the show on Discord in a way that is not too difficult. Even Yaron mispronounces his name. That's true. It's absolutely true. Because my name is Yaron. My name is Yaron. Yaron Brook. But I don't expect anybody to say that. I can't say it when I'm in the stream of English. It just comes out Yaron. But Yaron is hard. R. You don't have that R. The R is an Israeli R. All right. Jeff, wow. Jeff is just hitting on all cylinders today. Jeff says, you missed it again. Pronounce Thessi like Tazy. Really? Thessi is not, it's not TH, it's Tazy, which rhymes with daisy. Okay, Tazy. Sorry, Tazy. Sorry, Tazy. All right, Tazy. I did it. You have to remind me every show. You have to remind me how to pronounce Tazy and Nasir. I should be able to do Nasir. There should be a Y in your name, and then it would be easy. Nasir. Okay. God. It's hard. Names are hard. Pronouncing stuff is hard, particularly when they're not phonetic. All right. So we're about $300 short of the 3,000. I'm starting to fade here. Let's go back to our stories. Remember, I got my booster shot yesterday, so I'm overcoming Tazy instead of like Daisy. Tazy instead of like Daisy. All right. Let's see. What else do I want to jump to? Okay, another positive. We're doing all the positives now. This year was the rebellion against woke. 2020 was the year of woke. 2020 was the year of cancel culture. 2020 was the year of Black Lives Matter, legitimization of Black Lives Matter. And everybody thought they were part of Black Lives Matter. 2021, people were fed up with woke, fed up with CRT, fed up with Black Lives Matter. People, at least to some extent, woke up in 2020. So 2020 is really the rebellion against woke. You see that in the Substack culture, but you see so many of the Substacks going after the woke. You saw it in the elections of November. You see it in the fact that the Democrats are trying to hide their woke people because they're afraid they're going to lose big time. So I really do think one of the positives of 2021 is a cultural awakening against the woke. Sam, thank you. Really appreciate the support. How to tell where it'll go. How to tell if it's all motivated by the right things, going in the right direction. But there seems to be, people are just fed up with, everybody being canceled over every little thing, that people who are good people being canceled. I'm going to get to the $15 Super Chat questions, I promise. I'm going to get them. I'm trying to chip away a little bit of my list of biggest stories of the year before I get to them. All right. Let's see. Another kind of positive, I don't know how to make. This is the big story of this year, which I don't know completely how to categorize, and maybe it'll be an even bigger story in the future, and I'll slowly figure this one out. We'll figure this one out together. Some of you might be involved in educating me about this. Crypto. This is certainly the year of crypto. 2020 was, but 2021, it kind of seems to have gone more mainstream. Many more businesses accept crypto. Banks, corporations seem to be more invested in it. Blockchain seems to be popping up everywhere. It just seems to have increased in its visibility significantly over this last year. And I view that as probably a positive. We will see. I've said over and over again, I don't completely understand crypto. I don't understand exactly the value proposition. But I think it's something to watch, and it's something to think about, and it's something to let the market evolve. And it's probably bubbly right now. It'll probably drop, but exactly where it goes, I don't know. But wherever it goes, I think it's interesting. And I think it was a big story this year. The NFTs, the big market in NFTs, which I don't think is completely rational. Some of it's nuts, but I don't think it's completely rational. As compared to the amount of money ugly, horrible pseudo paintings go for, called modern art, go for in the marketplace, NFTs steal. So crypto is a big story, was a big story this year, and an interesting one. All right. I think that's it for like the semi-positives. Where should we go now? What should we do now? I did that. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 more stories of the year, big stories from the year, which is. We're about 250 short of the 3,000, so maybe over the 4 stories of the year, and what have I got, about 6, 7 Super Chat questions still. So let's take a couple of Super Chat questions, and then I'll go back to do another couple of stories of the year as we build up to the big story of the year, the number one story of the year, which I think will be, they're all negative from now on, so there are no positives. Okay, Hunter. Oh, you duplicated. So you raised it to $20, but that was a Discord question. Florida Nick, have you ever gone on the Flank Road Right tour in Florida Southern College? No, I didn't know there was one. Also, I think it would help the likes and subscribes if you would mention likes and subscribing more frequently. Okay, don't forget to subscribe to the show. Don't forget to like the show before you leave. Liking helps the algorithm a lot. And at the end of the day, subscribers helps the channel. The bigger the channel is, the more people it attracts. So please subscribe. That is a big help. Thank you. Thank you for letting me learn about the Frank Lloyd Wright tour in Southern. I've done a lot of other Frank Lloyd Wright tours. I didn't know there was one, so I will look that up online, and I will make a point of going at some point. Thank you. Important information. All right, Ronnie. No, thank you. Happy New Year. With student loans, read Washington Post writer say canceling student debt is as strategically smart as it is morally urgent. Thoughts? Canceling student debt is morally offensive and horrific. But of course, the government should never be in the student debt business. The government should announce tomorrow that it's getting out of the student loan business, that it's selling its entire student loan portfolio to private banks, and that it's getting out of the business, and it won't administer, it won't provide, no scholarships, no student loans, nothing. It's getting out of the higher education business, and that would be the best thing that could happen to higher education in the world. Morally, it's offensive, and economically, it would be devastating. I can't remember what the number is, $1 trillion plus, which just get added up to the debt. You have to, and it's lost revenue. That means that you either have to increase taxes or you have to increase inflation. But that debt has to be paid off somehow. So it's both economically a disaster and morally horrific. Why should you not pay for the education you got? You should. You just shouldn't do it to the government. That's why the government should sell the debt. Should sell all the student loans. Won't happen, I know. God forbid you privatize student loans. Joe says, you're very informed. What are your top 5 sources of information, blogs, newspapers, etc.? I don't know. I read a lot. So I read, as I've told you many times, I read a lot of Substacks. I've mentioned Barry Weiss. I've mentioned The Dispatch. I've mentioned Scott Alexander. There are probably 3 or 4 other ones that I read. Then I scan Google News every day. I catch stories. I like to read the Wall Street Journal, as much of the Wall Street Journal as I can. I read Washington Post, articles from the Washington Post. I even read the New York Times on occasion, just to see what they're writing about. And then all kinds of stuff, that just comes in as I read John Cochran's blog. I read Marginal Revolution, the blog at Marginal Revolution. I scan a bunch of other blogs. So it's just a lot of different disparate sources. There are no 5 sources that I have. But I'm constantly engaged with this stuff, even when I'm doing other things. Google News and other stuff is, Pirate Wire. Pirate Wires is very good. Mike Solana, I think his name is. He's very good. So the Substack world is right now my favorite source of commentary and information. Alexandru, and I'm not going to try to pronounce your family name. No way am I trying that one. All day people have made fun of me for pronouncing names. There's no way I could try that one. Thank you. That is very generous. Happy New Year. What is Objectivism's view of mercy? I think it's safe to say we're against it. Now, what do you mean by mercy? Means feeling sorry for, not punishing the evil, feeling sorry for evil. Is that what we mean by mercy? Somebody does something bad to you, turning the other cheek? No, I'm 100% against turning the other cheek. I don't believe in it. It's anti-objectivist. It's one of the worst things about Christianity that Christianity teaches. So Objectivism is against mercy. I think Leonard Peikoff has a talk on this, or a section of a talk on this, I vaguely remember. I can't remember if he brings up mercy or if it's just forgiveness. I mean, we'll forgive, but but there has to be recompense. There has to be the other party who is the offender has to acknowledge their offense, has to acknowledge that they did something wrong, and has to make amends. Then you can forgive. But mercy, I don't think, is ever appropriate. I don't think mercy is a virtue. Enemies are enemies. All right. We've got 3 Super Chat questions. I'm going to leave those and do another story. All right. So we've done, I think we've done, 9 or 10. I think we did 9 stories. We've got another, any Stacks news bloggers, video channels on business you highly recommend? I don't really follow it that closely, the world of business. Again, Mike Solano does some of that, Pirate Wire. He does some business stuff. I'd say the Wall Street Journal is the best publication for business, and then from there you get leads to other people. You find writers in the editorial page that you like that write about business, and you follow them. Paul, thank you. Really appreciate the support. We are getting very close to the $3,000 mark, so thank you guys. Really, really appreciate it. So I think we're now at 2,914. So $85 before we reach 3,000. All right, let's see. We're gonna leave that. Okay, the Great Resignation. I think this is a fascinating story. I think we're living through it right now. It's going to be an interesting story about next year. I will definitely do at least one show about this. I'm still trying to understand it better, and it'll be interesting to see if it continues into the next year. But there certainly is this trend right now, particularly among people mid-career, late career, early career, across demographics, raw jobs, sophisticated jobs, middle managers, higher managers, low-level people leaving their jobs. Some taking on other jobs, but some just disappearing from the job market. I don't know what they're doing. Some early retirements. But it's called The Great Resignation. It's a big story. It's fascinating and interesting. It's got economic, psychological, and political implications. It's going to be interesting to follow through on all of those. Psychological is going to be interesting. Economic is interesting, and political, of course. All three of those are going to be fascinating. I look forward to talking about it more next year as we see how this evolves and how this develops. But it certainly looks like an interesting story in terms of what is happening, why it's happening, and what is driving it. All right. Probably the worst law passed this last year, and this is a tough competition because we had another stupid stimulus, and we had an infrastructure bill we don't need and we can't afford. But we had the Texas abortion law. The Texas abortion law is an abomination. It is an abomination because of the way the law was structured. I did a whole show on this, where in order to get around the constraints of the Constitution, or the constraints created by the Constitution by the Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade, it allows individuals to sue clinics and Uber drivers and anybody involved in the execution of an abortion. If this law is held up, this is going to open up at the state level. A bunch of states are going to find ways to get around constitutional provisions by letting individual citizens sue each other for all kinds of things. It is truly a disaster and is horrible. And I really, really, really hope that this is the one law that I hope that the Supreme Court overturns more than any other. So the Texas abortion law, and I lost a lot of subscribers because of my opinions about this and about abortion more broadly. But this is truly just horrific law qua law. Bad law. Let's see. All right. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more. 4 more. All right. Let's do somebody. Michael asked. I answered that. Paul, thank you. Action Jackson, I'll get to. Okay, let's do one more story. One more story from the year. This is a. Oh wait, this is another one that we're going to be really following in the next year. It's one that's really come to the forefront in the last few months, and that is inflation. Inflation is the biggest economic story of the year. It's probably going to be the biggest economic story of next year. Inflation can be devastating. Both the inflation and the response to the inflation, depending how they structure the response, can destroy our economy, can destroy jobs. Right now, the economy, for the most part, is doing well. Wages are rising, but inflation is eating away at your standard of living. It's increasing your cost of living. Most people don't know how much. So even though their wages are going up, are their wages going up enough to cover the erosion of the purchasing power of the dollar? We're seeing massive problems and we're going to see massive problems resulting from this inflation. Of course, part of the inflation is a product of the supply chain bottlenecks. That's going to be an interesting story to follow. To what extent are they cleared? How are they cleared? Where are they cleared? I think there's going to be more supply chain problems with China going on a zero COVID policy and shutting down whole cities like Xi'an. Means that in Xi'an there's no production happening. Means that in Xi'an they're not making the stuff that we buy. Means that we can buy it, but it's not being made. People don't understand at the Fed, anywhere else, that the fundamental issue in economics, the fundamental issue in economics is not consumption, it's not money. The fundamental issue in economics is production. Everything else serves, in a sense, production. So the fundamental issue is the production of goods. And when you hamper the production of goods, whether it's because of COVID lockdowns, whether it's because of regulations, whether it's because of taxes, whether it's because of all kinds of other burdens and restrictions and subversions, whether it's because by nationalizing production like they are in China, you are going to create massive economic problems. And it doesn't matter what you do on the other side. It doesn't matter what you do with demand. Everybody since Keynes has been obsessed with aggregate demand. All the models are models of aggregate demand. But the issue is production. And production is taken for granted, whereas in my book, consumption should be taken for granted. Consumption is easy. If you produce, people will consume, partially because they're going to make a living producing, so that they have money to consume. So production is always at the heart, at the key, at the beginning of anything. You cannot consume that which is not being produced, but also you cannot consume until you have produced and therefore have the money in order to consume. Now, that might not be true of any individual who might be getting money from the government, but as a group, absolutely that is the case. We have to be producing in order to consume. So the whole focus, the whole orientation of economics is wrong, and that's why these supply chain issues are crucial, crucially important to what is going on in the world. All right, let's run down through some Super Chat questions, and then we'll get to the final top 3 stories of the year. What's the most, God, that's a strange question. What's the most you've ever paid for a car? Do you typically make payments or pay cash outright to avoid interest and debt? No, I love debt. Haven't you learned that yet? I'm a huge believer in debt. Why would I pay cash? I don't believe in cash. Pay for anything. I would take debt anytime. I pay for everything on a credit card. I pay it off because the interest rates are so high. But if I can buy 20 days and not have to pay it off another 20 days, that's net my gain. And the convenience of a credit card is amazing. Absolutely. Every car I bought over the last, 20 years has been on payments. I've leased a lot of cars on my businesses, which is tax efficient for a variety of reasons. But I love interest in debt. I think it's great. So the most I paid for a car, I don't know. I think 60-something thousand. I had in California this gorgeous. The one thing I miss about California, I missed several things, but this is one of them. I had this gorgeous S5 Audi, 2-door, kind of grayish, with red seats. It was and it flew. It was a really fast car, and I loved that car. So I probably paid 60-something thousand, but I leased it. So I don't know how much I paid for it. I leased it. Yeah, I'm a big believer in debt. If you know what you're doing and you manage it right, and you've got steady income and you're confident about your future, and you can get the debt cheaply, I'm a big believer in mortgage yourself to the hilt, particularly now with inflation on the way. I have done a video against the anti-debt advice that Dave Ramsey gives. But also, look, I'm speaking to a different audience than Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is primarily talking to people who are irresponsible, who can't think. Then yeah, if you're irresponsible, can't think long-term, can't plan properly, are impulsive, are not using your reason, don't take on debt. But if you're rational and smart and are not irresponsible and know how to manage your money and can resist temptation, then just do the risk-reward pay off and debt pays off. So that makes a lot of sense. I have a massive mortgage on this condo that I have in Puerto Rico. I mean, I couldn't afford it otherwise. But why would I not take it? The bank's giving it to me at 3.75%. Inflation is double that today. I'm making money every day with this inflation, and I'm paying only 3.75. And I make more investing with that money than 3.75. So the money I got the mortgage on, I put in the money, I put in the market, I make more than 3.75. So there's many, many ways in which it just doesn't make any sense to avoid debt. But again, I think Dave Ramsey's talking to a different audience. Dave Goodman says, Steven Spielberg is the best director when it comes to playing with perspective. Would you say he is the best American movie director? Alive today? I don't know. Maybe. He certainly can make a great movie. Sometimes his movies are duds, but he can. When he's at his best, he's exceptional. He's exceptional. And he was very good at West Side Story. Okay, Yaron, you're explaining sales laws properly. Supply creates its own demand. Yes, it is an incorrect but unfortunately widespread interpretation. While production precedes consumption is correct. And production, it's not just that it precedes it. It's production makes consumption possible. Because in producing, you earn a living in order to consume. Thoughts on the show movie Fiddler on the Roof? I love Fiddler on the Roof. I saw it live with Topol, the original fiddler, in Orange County a few years ago. He was 80 years old, and he still managed to sing and dance, and it was terrific. It's a fun musical about my ancestors. You watch Fiddler on the Roof, those are my people from a long, long time ago. My great-great-grandparents, or my great-grandparents, actually. And I think it has some interesting lessons about, breaking out and living your own life and not giving up on your dreams and living those dreams. All right, Catherine is showing us we're about $60, $61 basically short of the $3,000 goal. So you can do it, guys. You can do it. $80, $60. Why am I saying 80? Action Jackson says, what was your favorite debate you did or favorite show you went on? Yeah, my favorite show was Lex Friedman. That was the best this year by far. Both my appearances on Lex Friedman were fun. Actually, all three of my appearances on Lex Friedman. I did one in 2022 this year. Lex is great. He's a great interviewer, and he creates a nice atmosphere in which to discuss ideas. And, of course, you get a great audience. So I love those. In terms of debates, I don't know. I mean, Vosh was the debate that got the most attention and got the most subscriptions. I think I enjoyed the Wolf debate because I think I made him look so stupid and so just nasty, and I think I achieved my goal if I made him look that bad. And I liked the debate with Yoram Chazoni this year. It was a civilized debate. It was not contentious. It was not. We didn't argue. We didn't raise our voices. It was about ideas. I mean, I'm sure it could have done a better job. I'm sure we needed a lot more time. And as you'll see, we get more time on Lex Friedman, so we talk about a lot more. I wouldn't say it was really a debate about conservatism. It landed up being more of a debate about individualism, but that's better because it's better to debate a positive than the negative. So it got that. Multi-infidel was another decent debate. I think all of these are great. Limbeck just got us over 3,000. Thank you, Limbeck. Another one of the kind of constant supporters who comes in with big amounts on occasion and always gets us over the top. So Stuart says, Richard Wolff doesn't need anyone's help to look stupid. I think that's right. I think he looked particularly mean and nasty in my debate. So you're right about stupid, although I guess some people don't see it in spite of the fact that it's so obvious. All right. I think I'm done answering all the Super Chat questions I have so far. I'm still open to getting more, though make sure they're $20 or more. And, of course, if you want to take us to 4,000, I'm fine with that. But I'm very, very, very happy that with the 3,000, and I really, really appreciate everybody who has supported the show on today's show and through the entire year. But let's do these last three big stories. I think a big story is just how incompetent Biden has been as president. We knew we wouldn't like him. We knew he was going to be bad. We knew he was kind of a nothing. He was a nobody and a nothing. But there was some chance that he would have, from his perspective, not from our perspective, he would hire some competent people and get a few things done. And he was a senator for many years, so he could play the Senate and the House well and get some bills passed and do some good things. And instead, whether it was the Afghan withdrawal, which was a complete and utter disaster, or whether it's all these bills coming through and him being manipulated and played by the progressives or by Manchin, he is just being pathetic. He's also being really, really political when it comes to COVID. I know people who expected that after Trump made COVID so political, everything was political, that maybe Biden would be more focused on the science to the best of ability. But no, Biden was completely political. On several occasions, things were done in order to distract us from focusing on Afghanistan or focusing on something else so that he would appear to be acting on our behalf with regard to COVID. So Biden's presidency is just turning out to be a disaster, even by his own standards, by the standards of the left, certainly by the standards of us who believe in free markets. It always was going to be one, but it's turning into much worse. It's good for us in a sense. The more incompetent it is, the less it gets done, the less bad stuff gets passed, right? The more he talks to Republicans and gets them on board, the more bad stuff will get done. So I'd say big story this year, Biden's incompetence. Okay, the last two should be kind of obvious, but I wonder how many of you are going to guess what my last two big stories. Think about it while I read the Super Chat question. Harold asks, well, first, Liren says, thank you for all the value you provide to me. Thank you, Liren, and thank you for all the support. Harold says, your ego and emotional health is great. Your serotonin system must be peak. I attribute this to Rand's philosophy, a psychological antidote to modern anxiety, depression, but I'm still enjoy meditating. Ha ha. Go for the meditating. I instead of meditating, I listen to classical music. I think it has a similar effect on me. I think I get more out of classical music than I would for meditating. So you should try it sometime. Like just focus on the music. Do what you do in meditating, but focus on the music and see what happens. I think you'll get more of it than meditating. I was gonna say Thessi, but Tazy. How do you get that pronunciation from that spelling? Thank you for your support. You've been here, and I know it's very late in London right now, and you're here almost every show I do, in spite of how late it is for you. So I think you get an award for most dedicated listener, given that you have to listen to this at like 1, 2 a.m. in the morning from London. So thank you for being so committed. Anybody want to guess what the two biggest stories were? Yeah, you got one. That's one. Yeah, we did Afghanistan already. Yeah, the other one is obvious. All right. The one before last is going to be COVID. You can't avoid COVID. I mean, COVID and the vaccines are a huge story. Last year, this time of year, I thought that it was basically going to be over by the summer. I thought we would all get vaccinated. I thought by the time we all got vaccinated, either we would stop infecting one another, or they would just open it up, because even if we did infect each other, it wouldn't be that bad. Nobody would go to, fewer people would die. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it wasn't over. It wasn't over for a number of different reasons. And I think the biggest reason is the fact that the fact that there's a massive anti-vax movement, particularly in the United States. And vaccines became politicized. They still are, right to this day. They become pseudoscience. Science, you've got doctors spouting complete and utter nonsense, using statistics that make no sense. You've got a complete mess. And of course, the authorities have no clue how to articulate their case. The drug companies are floundering in terms of educating people, but the worst is our politicians. Fauci has been a disaster. He should resign. He might be a great doctor, he might be a great scientist, but he is an awful communicator. Awful. So the unvaccinated keeping it alive, and then Delta comes, and it turns out the vaccines are not as efficacious against Delta in terms of keeping us from getting COVID or from passing it on, which was disappointing because we thought the vaccines would be a lot more efficacious. And then, now we got Omicron, which is incredibly infectious, but not that big of a deal, but people are still panicking. Panic is everywhere. The panic is unbelievable. Plus, everybody I know has COVID now. I mean, every time I talk to somebody, they or their family or their friends or everybody around them has COVID. So everybody's going to get COVID now. Omicron is basically going to affect everybody. And then what? Are we still going to panic? Our politicians are panicked. Young people are panicked. I see young people sitting outside with masks on. I see young people walking around in Austin, Texas, on the campus with masks on. You can't get COVID outdoors. Doesn't matter. I say this every show. It doesn't matter. Right? Wanda Freeman has a pledge to be silent on these issues. Ivermectin. I mean, the BS that has come out on ivermectin, the nonsense, the bad statistics, the bad science, the bad evaluation, the arguments, the violence of those arguments, the fact that social media is taking people offline because they're anti-vaxxers or anti-ivermectin or pro-ivermectin, is nuts. The whole world has gone insane over COVID. All our standards for civil discourse, all of our standards for science, all of our standards for looking at evidence, all of our standards for using statistics and math, all of our scientific, rational, reason standards have gone out the window, disappeared. None of it exists. It's insanity. And it doesn't seem like it's ever going away. And Joe Rogan is just feeding this. And the more he feeds it, the bigger his audience gets. And he feeds it more. And Fauci feeds it. And the rational voices, the people who actually look at the science, look at the evidence, where are they? They're silent. They're quiet. Nobody wants to listen to reason when you can scare people up, or you can rile them up about big conspiracies, or you can tell them there's a miracle cure, or you can tell them the vaccines are killing everybody. Just full disclosure, I got my booster shot yesterday. Probably shouldn't get this excited. I wasn't feeling too well. COVID is bringing out the worst in everybody. The worst in everybody. We should all get it over with. But I don't think the politicians will even let us go then. Or all these fearmongers, or all these, snake oil salesmen. Man, I've never seen so many snake oil salesmen around as I did. And then people who supposedly have respect for markets and business and achievement and science, vilifying drug companies, buying into Noam Chomsky-like, horrific statements about the drug companies. What did I quoted yesterday from Candace Owen, saying that the drug companies were the biggest evil on the face of the planet right now. Drug companies, biggest evil in the world. Yeah, I know you like it when I get excited, but this means I'm angry, and you don't want me angry. What's the point of being angry? I don't want to be angry. Angry's no fun. And look, my camera goes out of focus when I get angry. I would rather focus on the sculpture, the beautiful sculpture of David right there. That's David. Sheathing his sword after chopping off Goliath's head. That's Goliath's head right there. It's a beautiful sculpture. It just drives me nuts. There's actually is an alternative drug if you want to take it. If you get COVID and you want to take it, a drug, don't take ivermectin and don't take hydro whatever. Take this antidepressant drug that actually is shown to have an impact. Whoa, Skylar, where did you come from? Maybe I should get angry more often. Skylar shows up with $500. Very cool. Thank you, Skylar. Whoa. Now we should go for $4,000, right? We're $3,500 already. So we might as well go for it. God, you guys have been great today. Thank you. Wow. And there's Damon. Damon asks, why does patent law protect medicines produced but not a chef's recipe? Would cutting back some patent law increase the ability of free markets? I've been having an inner debate with myself and so go back and forth on it. Happy holidays. I don't know why recipes are not protected. That's an interesting question. I have no idea. We should ask Adam Ossoff, who is our expert on patent laws. Maybe you could copyright a recipe. But part of the reason to write a recipe book is to get people to make the recipe. So you would have a hard time selling the recipe book if you said, you can read these recipes, but if you use these recipes, I'm going to sue you for copyright violation. I don't think that would work. But no, look, patent law actually increases the ability of the free market. Patent law increases the ability of the free market. Why would you spend the billions and billions of dollars to develop a drug if immediately imitators could copy it and you could make no profit off of it? So no, patents are a way to protect property rights, and they enhance free markets. They make free markets work. Look at the vaccines. They're making a lot of money off of them. They're doing them quickly because at some point the patent will run out, and actually Biden is threatening to take the patents away from them. So look, COVID is still a big story, and my fear is that we will be sitting on December 31st, 2022, and still talking about COVID. God, I hope not. I mean, Pfizer now has the pill that you can take, and it's better than ivermectin, and it's better than the antidepressant, and it's better than all these drugs. You're not going to die if you take this pill. They just need to produce enough of them. So I just hope this is it. It's over. It's done. We can move on. Unfortunately, the next story is one that I don't think we can move on, and I think it's going to be with us for another few years. I think the biggest story of the year, the most important story of the year, the story that will have the most ramifications for America, at least in the future, is the attempt to steal the 2020 election by Donald Trump. Donald Trump lost the election to Joe Biden in 2020. And from the day after he lost it, he attempted to steal it by doing really things that I think were just unthinkable. I don't think anybody, if you'd asked them a couple of years ago, would have imagined the President of the United States calling up an election official in Georgia and telling him to find 14,000 votes so he could win the state, so they could flip the votes. It's just unimaginable. Calling the Vice President of the United States a traitor for doing his constitutional duty, which is certify legitimate votes. Supporting, encouraging, in a sense, an attack on the Capitol. I mean, I know that people like Tucker Carlson and others on the right and at Fox have rebranded January 6th as some patriotic, bunch of tourists walking into the Capitol where it was all open and they just walked in and had a good time. But no, this was an attack with a purpose, to prevent Congress, or at least to put pressure on Congress and on the Vice President, on Pence, to decertify the election. And Trump continues. It is, the most egregious lie. January 6th was an absolute disgusting phenomena. I'm glad the people there are getting long sentences in jail. I don't know that they're going to get enough, given that a number of policemen died on January 6th. Antifa was not posing as rioters. That's BS. It's being disproved over and over again. But you can make anything up. Tucker Carlson can invent any stories he wants, and nobody cares, because the Trump phenomena is mindlessness. What Trump has brought out in a certain segment of the American public is mindlessness. And there is a massive amount of mindlessness when it comes to Trump and when it comes to the insurgency attempt that he inspired, insurrection attempt that he inspired. And this is going to have massive ramifications, because there's a significant portion of Americans now who believe that it's okay to do anything to defeat the left, that it's okay to do anything to support Donald Trump, that it's okay to do anything to achieve power. Not only do we have masses who believe this, but now there's an entire intellectual movement called the New Right that is dedicated to providing the intellectual foundations and the educational context for this. Now, it could be that Trump is finished and this is a decline, and in 2024 he won't run, or if he runs, he won't win the Republican nomination. And I hope that's the case. That would be the best outcome possible, that he just fades into oblivion. I mean, ideally, they try him for something and send him to jail. Assume he committed a crime. I don't know that he has, but wouldn't be surprised at all. But there is a real danger and risk. I did a show on this, that if he comes back in 2024, he manages to steal an election. He is now, him and his Republican allies are now placing election officials in key positions, election officials who don't care about the truth, don't care about reality, don't care about voter integrity, don't care about election integrity. All they care about is defeating the left. There is a real fear, risk, that they now take over the positions that certify elections in different states and different counties, and that no matter who wins a particular state or particular county, they will certify it for Trump. So I think that is the story to watch. It's Trump and his ability to steal elections, how that plays into the 2022 congressional elections, whether his candidates win. My hope is that Trump's supported candidates in 2022 lose in the Republican primaries. I hope they lose in Arizona. I think it's Blake Masters. I hope J.D. Vance loses in Ohio in the primaries. I hope that everybody that Trump has endorsed and supported loses. That will be the best signal to Trump not to run in 2024. All right, guys. I'm exhausted. I'm going to go recover from my shot. They did a lot more than the Kavanaugh protesters did. I mean, first, Kavanaugh protesters should be condemned, but to compare the Kavanaugh protesters to January 6th is bizarre and ridiculous. No policeman died during the Kavanaugh protests. They didn't smash windows the way they did here. They didn't bring ropes to get into the thing. And their goal, and this is the key, their goal was not to overthrow a legitimate election. That's what the goal was in January 6th. So Kavanaugh, they might have been bad. I mean, certainly in terms of riots, the Black Lives Matter riots were worse in terms of death and destruction than was January 6th. But the goal of those riots, including Black Lives Matter, was not the overthrow of an election. That, as far as I know, has never happened before in the United States. That is an unbelievably dangerous precedent. That is what has to be condemned. Never again. Instead, I think there are many people on the right who are planning to make it better and more efficient next time. Anyway, forget Trump, forget about all this, because Saturday we're going to talk about the future. We're going to talk about the next year. Hopefully we'll have more positive things to say. This was a great show thanks to you guys. $3,620 basically. That is amazing. I didn't expect it. We didn't have a match. Last year we had a big match, but that is an amazing number. So thank you all. Thank you for all of you, whether you gave small amounts, large amounts. It is all appreciated. Thank you for everybody who has been supportive of the show over the last year. We are going on to better and bigger things. We're going to make the show much bigger. That is my goal for next year, and I hope you guys will help. In that sense, don't forget to like the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. And I'm going to have fun tomorrow. I'm going to a wedding lunchtime, and then going to hang out with some friends in the evening. I don't know if I'll be awake for the fireworks, but hopefully, maybe, we'll see. And I plan to have a good weekend. I will see you all here on Saturday. My guess is right now that the show on Saturday would be at 2 p.m. East Coast time, 2 p.m. East Coast time, and then on Sunday at 2 p.m. East Coast time. I'm not sure what the Sunday show is about. The Saturday show is about definitely looking forward to 2022. Bring ideas of how you think we can make this show be much bigger. So I want to talk about that on the Saturday show. So bring ideas to that. 3 p.m. East Coast time on Saturday, 3 p.m. East Coast time on Sunday. I'll see you all there. Have a great new year. Thank you for all the support during 2021 and to an even better, greater, more fantastic year next year. We will slowly, mind by mind, one mind at a time, take over.